one last thing that I will say that I really thought was cool is Denny gets out of the car and makes this comment. He says the victory meant more to him because of the way he had to go about winning it. He quotes, in his quotes, it's, "I know I had such a huge role in the result. If the car was not good, I wasn't going to win, but I feel like I played a huge factor in the result. I'm really proud. It's a real proud one for me. Certainly one of the more proud ones I've had in my career, no question." So, in that, what I'm hearing is we made a win mean more. We made a win at Bristol mean more than a win at Bristol means. All right? We made the race harder to win. And if you guarantee fans a similar event in the fall, you're going to sell more tickets and you're going to have better TV ratings. I'm sure of it. So anytime you can make the win mean more to the driver, anytime you can make the race harder to win, I'm more than likely going to be more entertained, more fascinated, and more impressed, right? That was impressive to watch those guys figure that out. And I mean, I watched every freaking lap because you thought any minute something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting there waiting. We're not sitting there passing the time through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, waiting to see what happens at the end. Every single moment of that race was a potential, storm.
That's the longest I think I've been invested flag to flag in a long time.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, anything could have happened at any time. I was watching the press box and just glued to the racetrack. Didn't look at the TV at all. That's not typical for how I typically would consume a race.
The recipe is there for Bristol to become one of the favorite tracks of the schedule again. Yeah. And I think that we're close to it.
Yeah. You want to know, too, another thing about, we always a lot of the reason, people say, man, they ran the bottom at Bristol years ago. How do we get them back to the bottom, right? We've been putting the PJ1 down and the stick them and stuff like that, trying to make them race on the bottom so they'll push each other, knock each other out of the way because that's the only way around the track. But another thing, too, is man, when those marbles, they started, everybody was making such a big deal out of the tire debris on the racetrack. Man, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, that's every single race. That you did not get out of the groove. It was marbles. And drivers would, wreck and they'd get out of the car and go, yeah, man, got in the marbles. That was natural, common occurrence every single week. And so when that started happening, I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before. No one's going to go up there. It's too dirty. There won't be anybody cleaning that off. It's too much to clean off. It's not happening. And so we never saw anyone run the fence. They talked about how when they got out of the resin, the wear was worse. The tire wear was worse higher up the racetrack. But also those marbles, man, you were not going to go up there because it would kill your tire. You get that on your hot tire and it's stuck and it's, takes laps for that to get worn away. And so that was another compelling sort of very nostalgic thing that we saw. And hearing about, putting scuffs on and them being more durable. When's the last time we've ever heard that? Teams used to scuff tires anytime there was ever a concern about tires blistering, because back in the 80s and 90s, tires had a lot more tread on them, and the blistering was the issue. You wasn't going into the cords like a tire does today. You blistered tires because they had so much rubber that the heat would build underneath and it would blister away from the bottom layer. And so today's tire is so thin, the tread depth is so thin, and all the oils that Denny's talking about have been taken out of the tire. Some of the less greener oils, the more toxic chemicals, have been removed from the tire. And now when that tire does wear, it wears straight to the cord. It's like a powder. And so it's crazy how all that's changed over the years. But, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, the whole track would be littered with marbles and debris off the racing groove. And you really didn't venture far, out of that singular, 1 or 1.5, 2 grooves. Now there were tracks that did have a high line, and depending on, I think, like we learned this weekend, temperature, track temp, and all those things, that tire's going to wear differently. The marbles are going to be less or more or whatever. But man, it was a very, very fascinating thing and brought back a lot of memories. We would go to races in the 80s and 90s, and if there was ever any concern of tires blistering, teams immediately started scuffing every single set. So the teams could access all of their tires, even their race tires, Nowadays, you're not allowed any of access to them. You get to put air in them. You get to stack them up. That's it. But in years past, in the 80s and 90s, man, if there was a tire concern, they just would go ahead and scuff them. No problem. Alleviated. Problem fixed. No concerns. Because when you scuff the tire, it sort of shocks it, or it makes the tire more durable. Going through that cycle and cooling back down just hardens the rubber in some weird way so that it'll be a more durable tire when it's put on the race car during the race. And so that was another fascinating thing that got brought up during the event on Sunday.
Let me ask you this then. A lot of people cited, obviously, like temperature, but then also concrete doesn't really rubber up, they've noticed, until 65 plus degrees.
That's a great point. And the other thing, too, is like at Martinsville and at Bristol, when the track does rubber up, and it did put a little faint bit of rubber down at certain points of that race when they would run long enough. Not noticeably, but when the caution comes out, the hot tire picks the rubber back up. So they'll blacken the groove, and then caution comes out, and they'll pick all that back up, especially at Martinsville. And then they repeat that whole cycle over again. The track goes back green. I mean, the literal surface of the track is green,
right?
Like a new track,
fresh,
like a fresh track. And they got to rubber it all in again, right? And if the run's long enough, that again happens until the caution comes out and they pick it all back up. It's this sort of vicious sort of circle, especially at Martinsville. For years that happened. I believe that happens on asphalt racetracks. So it's the color of the racetrack doesn't allow us.
That's my follow-up question.
I just believe the color of the racetrack doesn't allow us to see it as easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the rubber gets laid down, it gets picked back up. I think that happens anywhere and everywhere. But it's more noticeable on a concrete racetrack. And probably more, it probably happens more
aggressively.
Aggressively, yeah, is the word I'm looking for, at a concrete racetrack. But I still feel like, the brushed concrete, when they brush it when it's wet, right? And it cures if you took your hand and rubbed your hand across it like that, it would hurt.
It's like sandpaper almost.
Yes, it would. Yeah. All right. Do that go to an asphalt track, not as painful. That's what the tire's dealing with. So if you take this issue to Richmond, it's not going to be a problem. But if you go back to Bristol or Dover or these concrete tracks, you got to be a little concerned and be careful.